So the second area of the BCS Foundation Certificate in User Experience is user research. So what does this area of the syllabus cover? So it covers the context of use. You should be able to state the components of the context of use. You should also be able to identify the potential users of your system, and that's so you know who it is you're going to go out and do site visits to. You should also be able to plan those site visits, and you should also be able to, when you do that, understand the context of use when you go out. You also need to know how to ask good and poor questions in user interviews, or at least you should be able to distinguish between good and poor questions to ask in user interviews. There's no obvious ones like leading users, for example, but there are many other ways of asking poor questions as well, and you need to be able to recognize those. You should be able to describe the different sorts of data that you should collect when you do a site visit to users, because remember, this is qualitative research that you're doing here. It's not quantitative research, and as a consequence, the kind of data you collect is different to that many other people normally collect, or people are normally used to. You then need to be able to know how to interpret the data from a site visit so that you can make sure that the design team have got a shared understanding about what the context of use is. And importantly, you should be able to state the difference between observation and interpretation. You also need to be able to identify various discount usability research techniques. Sometimes these are called guerrilla UX research methods. You might also hear it called pop-up research. And there's particular techniques like diary studies you need to be aware of. You should be able to state the key principles of contextual inquiry and define affinity diagramming. You should also know what the best research method is, or the most appropriate research method would be, to understand the context of use in your specific situation, because that may differ from project to project. And you should also be able to demonstrate the differences between opinion-based and behavior-based research methods. So there's this central theme in user experience that what people say and what people do are different, and you need to be able to demonstrate that you're aware of the differences between those. And finally, you should recognize that requirements gathering and conceptual design should be truly inclusive. In other words, you need to involve disabled users from the outset when you're doing this kind of research. Here's an example of the kind of question that you might face in this part of the syllabus. So in this one, you're part of a design team developing a smartphone application aimed at bird watchers. Users will make a recording of the bird's call, and then the app would identify the species of bird by comparing the recording with a central database. What would be the best way to uncover the user requirements for this application? So that's an example of the kind of question you might be posed.